Hey, beautiful people, welcome back. A very thin line exists between those who are taking advantage of the masses of people in society, whatever society you're at, whatever culture, whatever form of government. A very thin line exists between those taking advantage of the mass and those who purport to not want to be taken advantage of. Whatever means, however means, they use as an approach to express that they want to change or that they don't want to be taken advantage of. A thin line, a very thin line, exists between those two ends. The one doing the tort and the one the tort is being done against. And that thin line exists by way of a similarity. The similarity between the one being taken advantage of and the one taking advantage of that other party is the need and the will for instant gratification. The one that's taking advantage of the public at large sees an advantage in doing certain things that moralistically, logically, emotionally, they themselves know is not right. The other party being taken advantage of also has an element of greed, the element of wanting to take quick advantage, of wanting to do something very quick just to get that gratification that the other side also has, that need for instant gratification. This is where the concept of two wrongs don't make a right come in. So in some situation, if someone brings fire at you, you got to use fire too sometimes. It's usually misunderstood when they say you can't fight fire with fire. That is not to say that you shouldn't use zeal or passion. Use zeal and passion. But the intent behind that fuel, that fire, might very well lead you astray and qualify you under that terminology or that phrase. You can't fight fire with fire. If you have zeal and passion and you're just seeking some quick way and some way to just say or do something as an advantage, you're not going to get there, because the other party, as crooked as they are, which most people say they're crooked, we're not saying they're right or wrong. As crooked as they are, they know how to recognize their fellow crooked brothers and sisters. Just because the other party is in a different socioeconomic class doesn't change the intent, doesn't change the nature. The nature of those taking advantage of most people is the need and a requirement for instant gratification, to feel good by taking advantage of others. They enjoy doing it. Those, on the other hand, being taken advantage of have a similar nature. They just want to be that guy who says this. Ah, yes, I just said that. I felt good. I felt that instant gratification. The pursuit of happiness, there's nothing wrong with it. Pursuit of happiness is that which ought to be. Pursuit of happiness is a necessary aspect of life. So when someone seeks knowledge and asks questions about what they don't know, that is a normal thing. None of us knows everything, including myself. But one pattern that I see consistent is the nature of people who create contentions or appearance that they're trying to, quote, free themselves somehow, some way. Their gullible nature have caused them to fall for so many traps that traps blinds them. The same trap that was set by those they purport to try to free themselves from. Because those other guys on the other end, As much as you might want to talk down on them and say they're bad, they're crooked, they're fraud, they are a very intelligent group of people. Now, the faces in the front might just be sunrise, sunset, with a mundane state of mind who don't know any better, and it's just, they don't know any better. But those truly controlling it, they're an intelligent group of people. In order for you to go into a battle and do it properly, you must know what your opponent is capable of, and you must acknowledge their capacity for you to be able to even do anything. Most people gullible nature and a gullible need to get that anger out, that fuel, just blow that fuse, just let the air out. They allow that need for that instant gratification of saying something and just doing something and just being heard. They let that outweigh their need for the end goal, the actual solution, the actual remedy, the actual recourse. And they miss the whole point in transition. And the whole point are not the obvious things. The whole point are the subtle things that a lot of people miss. There's a fine line, a very thin line, between the bullies of society and the ones being bullied. There's a similarity between both of them. And the one who benefits from that similarity is that bully of society. A lot of people mean well, but they run for instant gratification. They run away from self-responsibility, and it harms them and harms other people, unbeknownst to them. Ultimately, benefits the one that they say they're trying to get away from. Because the one who most people purport to be getting away from have set certain traps within that process that you think you're taking, or that thing that you think you're studying. Because they know so long as you can accept that thing as your way out, regardless of whether it's a trap that's been prepared by the one that you're saying you're trying to get away from, you will never get away from it, because you will be convinced that that's where it is, even though the truth is always in front of you, and even though you always utter the truth yourself. For instance, showing up for court cases. A lot of people know it all exists in the realm of fiction. A lot of people know that they're not the ens legis. Putting aside the fact that they don't understand the elements, the tests, the qualifying factors, and the standards behind operation of law, evidence, and how they can prove all those suppositions that it exists in fiction and that they have no jurisdiction and that they're not the ens legis. Besides all that basic truth and fact, people get lost in the sauce of personalities. And that is a double-edged sword. People get lost in the sauce of personality in the sense that they look at what people are doing to them, and they look at the mere personality of the tortfeasor and approach it from that angle. And two, in the process of their attempt to fix themselves, they listen to people's personality flare, and they miss the whole message in the midst of focus on personalities. And by virtue of those two edges of the sword, they approach the totality of circumstance from a personal perspective. And by the time you see the paperwork that they put in, that is if they're not using some loose template out there that does not work, all that they're putting on a piece of paper is just how they feel. No laws to back it up. Nothing. No standard, no element, no doctrine. Nothing. No principles behind it. Just a bunch of buzzwords and a bunch of personal feelings, which will be applicable under normal circumstance. But when you're dealing with principles, which that other party is using against you, if you don't use principles, you will fail. But when you're dealing with principles, which that other party is using against you, if you don't use principles, you will fail. But when you're dealing with principles, which that other party is using against you, if you don't use principles, you will fail. But when you're dealing with principles, which that other party is using against you, if you don't use principles, you will fail. A lot of people say all these things exist in the realm of fiction, and they purport that they are not fictional, yet they are sending pieces of paper in it, and they're saying, I'm not going to show up. What you put on a piece of paper remains fictional until your performance brings it to life. And if you don't perform on that thing you put on a piece of paper, you can claim heaven and earth. If you don't perform on it, it is dead, and you are playing right into their hands. Why? Because someone has told you in the past, put a special appearance, challenge jurisdiction, don't show into their court. Do you not know that the bully is actually afraid of you actually showing up and speaking up? If only you knew that the bully is actually afraid of you. You doing what? You speaking up and showing up and shutting them down. That is their greatest fear. They are afraid of that. But most people are so lost in the sauce of personality flares. Most people are lost in the sauce of not dealing with principles. Most people are lost in the sauce of seeking instant gratification of, yes, I just did that they lose and miss the whole point. And because they lose and miss the whole point, they lose the battle and the war in and of itself. All these other little subgroups that are making fun of people like sovereign citizen, etc., they're not right or wrong. How can you blame them? Even though most of the people that label themselves as one thing or the other, they mean well, but they just fell for the trap because they're lost in the sauce. They missed the whole point in the process of attempting to free themselves. If you say that you're flesh and blood, then bring that to life. Your competence and your capacity and your ability is what affords you any right that you claim. There's a phrase called a right of action. The qualifying term within that phrase is action, performance. You have to bring it to life. You can put all you want on a piece of paper and send it to them and say they don't have jurisdiction, special appearance, whatever it is people do. If you don't bring it to life, they are already winning in the realm that they've set up beyond the things that you don't even know that's going on behind closed door about how they make earnings and incomes and monies. They're winning on that realm financially. And when it comes to serfdom, aka slavery, they're winning on that realm too. Because when you do that and you don't show up and shut it down, that is a flag to them that's showing them, oh, this is our slave. We'll do whatever we want with you now. And we'll create memorandums amongst ourselves and the public to shame you for trying to free yourself by labeling you something else. Because we know if we label you as something else, you don't even know how to react to it. You don't even know how to act properly to rebut that or to remove that presumption. Principalities is what people deal with. And since most people in North America are predominantly Christian, and those with their eyes open would nonetheless see the foundation behind this. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. This just told you, one, this thing is not what you are claiming it is. You're a man in the land, your blood, flesh and blood being blah, blah, blah. That's not where the battle is at. You're confused about what's going on and how you need to fix your issues. For we wrestle against principalities. It's about the principles. Most people who are doing things of this nature do not comprehend the principles that we go over on this page. They're lost in the sauce of personality flares and the need for instant gratification to say this, put this paperwork and do this. When it comes to the actual performance, they can't do anything. Against the rulers of darkness of this world. against spiritual wickedness in high places. Meaning these people that you hate so much that you call fraud, they are using things of spiritual nature in the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm, for the lack of a better term, does not give a fuck about what you think is right or wrong, good or bad. Spiritual realm works on principles. And whoever has the most wisdom and the most will to get it done, gets it done. These people that many people hate so much are into spiritual things that if it is revealed to you, you realize that your whole perception of reality is so false. So it is up to you. You are charged with the responsibility to use things on a spiritual level beyond speculation. It is up to you to go on a spiritual journey beyond merely lighting incense, to enforce spirituality beyond merely saying, oh, they're devil worshippers. If only you knew what that devil worshiping really is. It is up to you to enforce spiritual things beyond merely saying, I live it up to the spirit, I live it up to the ancestors. The divine karma will do this. Divine karma will not help you if you don't help yourself. Get to it.
Hey, and also don't forget to join my Patreon if you haven't. There I go through documents that I have used personally successfully and videos that I do not post here on YouTube that are in many ways private in nature. And also I go through live audio interactions and video interaction of my own experience with certain things. And I also have a website where you can go through a list of documents or services if you need them. And these videos that are posted on YouTube are also uploaded on Anchor. You can listen to it via audio means. And there's an Instagram page and a Facebook page. The link is on the screen and in the description. Take care and best of luck.